Ren, have you heard about the $8.5 billion fresh cut flower industry taking a massive hit in COVID-19?
Well, I've heard about it now. You,
Yes.
you know me, I'm quite the romantic. I have a flower guy on speed dial, so of course I've heard about it.
Nice. Well, we're back for afternoon beer discussions, and for those that have just joined us, the rules are one beer. So cheers. Got our beer here. You're still sticking with
Cheers.
the. You're still sticking with the stubbies.
Yet to be sponsored.
Yet to be sponsored. One beer, one topic, and if someone two blokes, if someone finishes their beer, then they have the right to hang up on the other person. So that's the rules. Do you want to get stuck in?
Well, I mean, you've got stuck in with the flowers.
Yeah, I mean, I've left it on a cliffhanger.
Yeah, you have. I don't think I want to wait in suspense any longer. So
you don't want to give a quick market update? We've finished the week.
Quick market update is the market was down like 0.5% today, the Australian market. But since the 6th of April, so the last 3 weeks, it's traded flat. I think it's down 0.8%, the ASX 200. And the American market is a little bit up in the last 3 weeks, but still is, we went through 2 months of pretty big moves. And now it's calm.
Calm waters. I think you'll actually find, bro, that the market was up 0.5% today. Not down.
Up 0.5%. Up, down, whatever.
Same shit. It's flat. It's flat.
Yeah. I think the last 3 weeks it's been like up 3, down 4 or something. So,
So we're going like sideways.
Calm before a storm. Which way that storm blows, yet to be determined.
Yeah, and we had a pretty interesting interview today with Marcus Padley from Marcus Today, which we're very excited to release over the next couple of weeks. And he has some pretty strong views on where the market might be heading from here. So stay tuned for that. Looking forward to releasing that. But Ren, as I opened with the topic for today, I want to discuss, it kind of caught my eye. You and I love finding new things when it comes to investing, going into industries that we would otherwise never really think about, although you are a romantic and do think about roses a lot.
All the time. Yeah,
all the time.
Call me, well, I actually thought of starting a business, Ren's Roses.
Oh, nice.
Or Alex Azaleas.
Oh God! Well, let's stick to investing. One thing that I think is important when we talk about this is thinking about businesses in the context of the commodity side and then the consumer-facing side. If you think about how you invest when it comes to industries, and the reasons for this we'll get to a bit later. But Ren, as I said, the cut flower industry is worth $8.5 billion a year. One of those industries that's taken a significant hit with coronavirus. And that is obviously because their supply chains have been absolutely cooked, especially when Europe went into shutdown. The main reason for that, and I don't know if you knew, but I had no idea, is that 40% of the world's flowers, fresh flowers, go through auction houses in the Netherlands. And there's a Dutch house over there, and they're, interestingly, an auction house where their auction system works, where they start at the highest price, and then there's a ticker that goes down, and all the people bidding for the price, the first person to essentially say, yeah, I'll take it at that price, gets it. So you're essentially
it's like a countdown.
Yeah. So it's who has the balls to press.
Bad.
Yeah, it's who has the balls to press the buzzer, hopefully before the next guy, but not at a price that's ridiculous. So you're not bidding each other up. You're almost, trying to jump in. So an interesting...
I wonder, surely there's been some studies done on the psychology of bidding up and the psychology of counting down and what gets a better price.
Yeah, I'd be fascinated. I would imagine you'd probably get a lower price bidding down because people get, depending on the asset, I guess.
I guess you're more likely to get people to spend to their limit.
If you bid down.
like, let's say it starts at $100 and you've got $70 to buy flowers, and it gets to like 70, 69, you're more likely to hit the buzzer, but you're probably less likely to go over your limit.
True.
Whereas like the psychological build up of bidding up, you're probably more likely to go over your limit.
Blow your budget, get carried away.
Yeah. I don't know. Maybe that's something we can do another discussion on once we've actually looked into it.
Deep dive. Because I'm not really sure how they actually set the ceiling price as well. I'm not sure how they start. But anyway, these auction houses are owned by a group called Royal Flora Holland, and they're a massive conglomerate that run this. And unfortunately, they're private, but they actually turn over €5 billion a year in the flower industries. That was back in 2017. However, the market absolutely collapsed.
Wait, do they sell $5 billion worth of flowers, or their revenue is $5 billion?
Revenue.
Wow. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Which is crazy. How is their revenue $5 billion if the total market is 8.5 billion?
It's a good question, my friend, and one that I haven't delved into. But anyway,
can we also clarify? I know I'm asking a lot of clarifying questions at this point, but you said 40% of the world's flower volume goes through this auction house.
Exports,
But that just means that 40% is sold at this auction house, right? It's not like they're physically moving through the Netherlands.
That's right. Yeah. Well,
So like they're grown in Africa, but the rights to them are sold in the Netherlands, sort of thing, or grown in Asia and the rights are sold in the Netherlands, because that's just where the flower exchange is.
No, the majority of them are flown to the auction houses.
Really?
Yeah. So we'll jump to the supply chain because it's fascinating. As you've pointed out, it starts in Africa. Kenya is one of the largest producers of roses. Due to their climate, they can produce roses all year round.
What's the life on a rose?
Not much. Their supply chain is tight. Like it's all incredibly refrigerated supply chains. And so essentially what happens is they cut the stems, placed in Africa, fly them through the Middle East, if they also come through the Middle East, packed into refrigerated trucks, flown onto planes to Amsterdam. They're then auctioned off, repacked into more cold trucks and delivered to supermarkets, bridal places all throughout Asia, Europe, US.
But like Australia, are Australian roses coming this way?
I'm sure there's an element at Valentine's Day where the demand for roses goes through the roof. That there would be some component of roses coming in through there. But again, probably should have done further fact checking on this. But
I mean, just at first glance, obviously I haven't done any research into it, but the supply chain costs makes it seem highly inefficient. Like,
well, bro, that's
moving stuff by plane across continents is expensive.
And that's why roses are generally about 16 cents per stem, but you buy them for $35. So
should we start a greenhouse?
I mean, it's not a bad option. But rose prices collapsed 70% to 8 cents when Europe shut down. And so, you can start to understand the huge on costs that are put on throughout this supply chain. And it's massive. Like you've got planes, trucks, like across continents. So it is a ridiculous supply chain, and all coming from majority Africa through auction houses into the consumer side. So, I mean, it's pretty phenomenal. And I guess that's partly why we pay such high prices for them.
Yeah, it's crazy that the cost structure, like obviously the cost structure works to grow them in Africa, but it's not like there's any other agricultural product that we say the input costs are so much comparatively cheaper in Africa that it's worth doing that and then having this like multinational supply chain. It's not like America are saying, oh, well, it's cheaper to grow corn in Africa and it's worth it to then ship across to us.
That's a good point.
Yeah. I guess roses fetch a better unit price, like $35 a rose. Yeah.
Yeah, it's fascinating. Who knows?
That is fascinating.
Yeah,
I need to understand that. That doesn't make sense to me.
me
Like,
either.
why isn't some enterprising farmer in America building a greenhouse and growing roses for the same, maybe rather than 16 cents a stem in Africa, they're growing them for $1 a stem in America, but they're selling them for $10 rather than 35.
A good question, and perhaps there's more to it that we don't understand, and maybe the demand, the quantity of roses that need to be produced is, if you think about how many roses we need across the world in a year, it's nuts. People have tons of roses at their weddings, and
And I feel like
crazy.
the demand, there would be a base demand for roses, which is inelastic. Like, if you want to have a wedding or
100%, yeah.
Valentine's Day, people are willing to pay whatever. But I feel on top of that inelastic demand, there would be a whole bunch of elastic demand. Like, last time you bought flowers for your girlfriend, you probably didn't buy roses because you're a cheap bastard.
Luckily, Harriet doesn't like roses either, so that's good.
But if roses were half the price, there would be so much more demand just day to day. Like, people would be much more willing to buy roses. I guess that'd be less premium, but still.
Yeah, it's the idea of the rose that's sold, not the...
I think we should not release this video until we're not confident that we can't massively disrupt the rose market.
Maybe we just need
we'll call it Ren's Roses. Like,
we just need to be... Well, this is my point, and it's getting to... it led me to start looking into businesses that you can invest in that have access to either roses or the fresh cut flower industry, because what's happened is so many producers are now having to just throw out tons and tons and tons of produce because their supply chain's shutting down, Europe's in lockdown, demand is not there, and of course it's not a product that has an incredibly long lifespan on it, so they're just essentially burning through all of their product at the moment. However, it led me to look at a couple of companies. So there's two major producers who are listed are in India, of all places. One of them is called Karaturi Global Limited, and they're one of the world's largest exporters of cut roses, with operations in Ethiopia, Kenya, and India. They have huge amount of greenhouses and produce about 500 million rose stems a year. So they're on the production side, as is Neha International, another Indian company also with operations throughout throughout Africa and the likes. However, as you can imagine, their share prices have absolutely been hammered. Karaturi alone was down 20% today.
Dude, that maths doesn't make sense. You say roses go for $35 a stem?
No, that was just a throwaway comment by me.
Okay.
I'm just saying they go for far greater than the 10 to 16 cents that they're sold for.
Yeah.
Mate, I'm not keeping tabs on the actual day-to-day rose price across
You were
Woolworths and Coles. This is a beer conversation.
Yeah, and like any beer conversation, your mates call you out if you haven't done the maths.
Fair call.
This industry fascinates me. So 2 Indian listed companies dominate this global trade for roses, where they're grown in Africa and shipped in refrigerated trucks and refrigerated planes around the world.
Yeah.
We should get a rose expert on the podcast to explain how that makes sense.
To unpack this. Yeah, I mean, it is fascinating. And then, so that's the supplier side, right? They're the commodity side. They're incredibly impacted by the price that they can sell the rose. They're impacted by demand and obviously by supply, things like climate and, their ability to grow, etc. So quite a cyclical business if you think about it from a commodities point of view. But then if you move to an organization in America called 1-800-Flowers, and they are a floral and gourmet retailer and distribution company, but on the consumer end.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure there's equivalents in Australia.
Yeah, probably not listed though. This is listed.
Oh, listed. So, yeah.
They're listed on the NASDAQ. They've got a market cap of about $1 billion, trading at a PE of 23. their share price is doing very well given the climate that we're in, because you can imagine people are, still wanting to send flowers here and there. Obviously, their supply chain is disrupted, but the difference between share price performance of the suppliers and the end consumer facing businesses are starkly different. So it just brings into question that, if you think about marijuana as well, the producers, they're the commodities side, and they get smashed when there's anything to do with disruptions to growing or regulation or whatever it is. Everyone's kind of waiting for the brand side to come out, who are going to own the consumer side.
I get the analogy. I mean, the big difference, the big difference is they're 100% online, and they would be one of many buyers for these producers, and these producers.
You're talking about 1-800-Flowers?
Yeah. It would be, the analogy would be like if there was an online weed seller compared to all the bricks and mortar weed sellers that were going out of business. But yeah, I do take your point.
You know,
1-800-Flowers. Yeah, 1-800-Flowers. Their costs are going to go to sweet F4. Well, at least their delivery costs will still be there, but their cost of goods.
Their cost of goods is going to drastically fall. However, they're also going to be impacted by the supply. But they're nowhere near as impacted as the growers of the flowers in this situation. So it's going to be interesting.
Yeah, let's get 1-800-Flowers on the phone. Let's call 1-800-Flowers and understand why it makes sense for them to buy flowers out of Africa rather than to just build their own have a vertically integrated supply chain domestically.
Yeah, and I mean, they could have a lot of flowers coming within America, but what I'm trying to point out is, if you're thinking about investing in these sorts of industries, it pays to think about how the supply chain works. And if you throw a blanket, I want to invest in the flower industry and just choose the largest producer and exporter because you think that's the way to go, you definitely need to think about the other end and how the differences in price actually work.
Yeah.
You got a housemate working in.
Home.
Nice.
I was worried you were going to say something. Very interesting. Well, look, you've definitely raised a lot of questions in my mind and probably in viewers' minds as well.
I like your
fascinating industry.
It is. I like your idea of trying to get someone on the show to dig into this a bit deeper.
So I think the plan is Wren's Roses can be the first company. And then when that takes off, we'll do Bryce's Bulbs as like a sister company that sells the I was about to say baby flowers for want of a better term. And then
Equity Mates Echinaceas.
Yeah. Okay, I like it. I think we're on something here.
So yeah, there you go, Ren. Nothing really more than that, other than wow, big dog over here, ready for the weekend.
Well, unlike last time, I'm not going to hang up on you. I'm going to let you wrap, given that you've presented such an interesting topic.
Thank you.
To bring in the weekend, as you said. Yes. Although, what is a weekend when we're locked inside?
That's right, Ren. Well, yeah. Look, we'll leave it there. But look, we should definitely pursue this further because it seems like there's more to unwrap. That's for sure.
Did you invest in any of these rose businesses?
I don't.
As a final question.
I don't think so right now because, as one of our listeners asked us the other day, does it fall in our circle of competence? And I think it's pretty clear at this stage that I certainly don't know enough about the end to end. No.
Mate, you sell groceries, you sell baby clothes, you sell roses. It's all the same. It's a supply chain and a retail face.
Yeah, you grow nappies just like you grow roses.
Yeah, you work for Woolies. You work for Woolies. You rip off farmers all the time. You
Hey. All right, Roy. Well, we both finished our beers, so that's the end of the game.
Our unsponsored, unlabeled beers.
Yes. Well, me more than you, that's for sure. We'll leave it there. If you want to join us in our community, hit us up at equitymates.com and follow us on Equity Mates Investing Podcast. And otherwise, we'll see you next week. See you,
Sounds
bro.
good.